What's up, fishaholics? It's Les here. I'm gonna try and give you guys a bit of a view of how I do water changes. So if you could see this open door over here, in that room I've got a floor drain. I also have a water line and a faucet in there. So essentially I hook up my hose with my filler end, and this is a PVC attachment that I made. It was about $10 worth of parts from Home Depot, and I also had to buy PVC glue because I didn't have any on hand, and that was another $5, but I barely used any. So if you have some, you'll be able to use what you've got. So anyway, this is the filler and this is for the drain. Now the end of this goes into the floor drain over here, and what I do is I start with draining, of course. So I bring the drain hose into the fish room, and I have 3 of these drain hoses, and sometimes I'll run all 3. Today I'm just going to run the one to show you. I also bring in my step ladder because the tanks are pretty high off the ground for these 90 gallons, and in order for me to reach the bottom to properly gravel or to properly vacuum, I need to use the ladder. So I have this Aquarium water changer with a valve. I put it in the tank and fill it with water with the valve closed, and then I hold it up like so, open the valve and put it back in the tank, flip it around, and the siphon started. Now I vacuum out any debris I can see, any leftover food, any poop, whatever it is, plant matter. Often there's some loose scales with these aggressive Central American cichlids. So just clean it all up, and then once I get the first tank going and I get all the stuff that I can see visibly vacuumed out, what I do is I shut off all the heaters. So I've got a couple switches and power bars here that I shut off. Now everything's shut off. It can't be run with a low water level, and now we just have to drain the tank. So I'll take you guys in the fish room for a minute. I'll give you guys a bit of a close-up. So it's going, it's draining here. Turn on the light. Now, and there's the floor drain. I keep that hose clamp, or I keep that clamp on there just to keep the hose down in the drain. When I'm off in the other room, I'm always kind of paranoid that I might pull it out by moving it around. And there's the water line. I just installed this about a week ago, this water line, and I ran it from over here. So it's good to go now. Tank's draining. So today I'm doing about 20% water changes. It's my midweek water change. I do the smaller ones midweek, and then I do larger ones every Sunday, as well as I clean all the filters on a Sunday. So once I get down to about here or so for the water level, then I'll need to start turning on the water. So I'll show you how I set that up in the meantime. Sorry for the hand in the way, guys. I just gotta get the camera set here. Oh man. Alright, finally. Okay, so like I showed you, I have the water line, and I'll bring this hose into the fish room, and with this thing I can hook it onto the tank. So I hook it onto the rim of the tank. And then I go into the fish room, and meanwhile on this thing, the valve is closed. In the fish room, I'll open the valve. Sorry, that's not the fish room, that's a utility room, my bad. But now, I open the valve in there first, and then I'll open the valve in here when I'm ready. Another thing that I do while I'm waiting is get my water conditioner handy. I have a video showing how I made this spray bottle. I modified it a bit since that video, and I just put the prime directions on there. The way it works for me is 1 squared equals 5 gallons, so I spray that in for every 5 gallons of new water that I'm putting in the tank, and I do it simultaneously while I'm filling the tank. So I know, like, if I had chloramines in my water and it was a little bit more serious, I would probably dechlorinate in a bucket first or in a reservoir, but not having to take those measures really simplifies things for the water change for me, and at this time that's how I'm gonna have to do them. We're still just waiting for this tank to drain, but it's pretty well at the point where I would start filling it up, or I would start thinking about switching the hose to another tank. So now what I'll do with the drain hose is I'll switch it by turning off the valve and removing it from the tank. So now it's like this, there's water in the hose but not in the actual gravel vacuum part. So now I'll move it over to the next tank. You put it in and remove any air bubbles, air pockets that get left in it, and then you open the valve. Once the valve is open, the siphon continues back on. So it's very handy not having to restart the siphon in between by having that valve to close it off. Without that valve, you could pinch off the hose or you could do something, but often you'll have to restart the siphon. It's no big deal to restart a siphon on these top tanks that are on the upper rack, but when I'm talking about restarting the siphons on the bottom rack or on the 10 gallons on the bottom rack, there's not very much space to work in those tanks, and the vacuum itself takes up a good portion of that tank. So yeah, so it's convenient having the valve on there. So now I'm approximately putting in 20 gallons of water, so I'm going to put 4 squirts of prime, and then I'll turn on the valve. Now I'll bring you guys in the fish room one more time for one more look, and then after that I'll finish it up because you guys will get the idea. So now my valve is open, my water's pouring in, my prime's in the tank. So I have to keep an eye on this, and when the water level reaches the black trim, that's usually when I stop filling. This tank is the next tank over, and it's draining as I'm filling that one. And then I'll continue on, and I'll do the whole bottom rack, all of these racks. I do the bins a little bit differently. I'll show you them in a different video. They kind of are their own separate shrimp experiment. So I'll probably put like a video series out on the bins, but keep an eye out for that. And then I'll finish up the rest of the tanks and I'll be on my way. So that's how I do water changes. It really helped me out to add this filler valve because one, I don't have to turn off the faucet now in between switching tanks. I can just turn it off right here. Two, by having a 3/4 inch outlet on my opening, I can have the water on pretty high, but it doesn't flow out of there so fast. Like to fill the volume of the 3/4 inch, it would need a little bit of back pressure, and since there is none, it kind of just trickles out. So as you can see, it's filling the tank relatively quickly here, and yet not making any type of mess or splashing or anything like that. It's super clean. Hope you guys enjoyed my video on how I do water changes, and please subscribe and like and share my videos, comment if you've got any suggestions, and hope to reach out to a few more of you in the future. Thanks.